got it.
All right, guys. So we got to get on to Brian Flores. A lot of things came out this week with Brian Flores and just the situation where Bill Belichick sent a text message. And you know what? I'm thinking, ladies, as I was thinking about the situation, Bill Belichick sending a text message to a Brian that he thought was the right Brian, but it was definitely the wrong Brian. Just the fact that Brian Flores is his guy.
Yeah, because he was his assistant, right?
For a while, they are friends, they are close.
Right.
Do you really think that Bill Belichick accidentally sent this message?
There's a lot of no.
Throughout it, you should have noticed that Flores, the Brian that was texting him back, was getting confused. When there was that early confusion in the text thread because I've seen it, you would have said, do I have the right person? There was early confusion. So I don't know.
I don't know. I do bring into question, like a lot of people were bringing up, and I know on Monday, it was brought up on Monday and on Tuesday, or is it really, because again, Brian Flores was his assistant for a long time, and how do you confuse one Brian to another? I just don't.
You don't talk to the other Brian often. In my mind, it's not, and I'm pretty sure they got two different zip codes.
Very true.
The two different places.
And I'm sure you could look at previous texts and go, yeah, that's the right one.
Right?
I know who I'm talking to.
So I think officially, but in that miss that he did, that text came out, we now have a lawsuit, a fat lawsuit for the NFL, the Giants, the Dolphins, and the Broncos. So, ladies, we got to dive into this. How do you feel about Brian Flores suing the NFL and all these teams?
Well, the fact that he's doing is bringing other black coaches. It always takes one black coach. I'm telling you, it's exhausting to go first. I'm sorry. Like, I know that everybody's like, oh, it's got to be, but it's, causing good trouble is good, but it's also exhausting because it takes one person to have to take that step so that everybody, so now you have a lot of black coaches coming out. Oh yeah, we were treated like this. We weren't really given a fair shot. Hugh Jackson, oh my God, just see what Hugh said from Cleveland, saying he got paid to fail on purpose. So then he looks like a bad coach, even though it's like they literally paid me to tank the seasons, right?
Yeah.
And so, so it makes him look bad. It doesn't make him look like a good coach. And then you have Chung, who's, oh my God, I don't know if you saw that someone actually told him he's not a minority because he's Asian.
Right, I saw
Coach
that.
Chung is like, I'm back. I know, exactly.
I'm sorry. I can't even with that. It's ridiculous.
So Coach Chung was like, yeah, I interviewed for a position, and they told me I'm not a minority because I'm Asian. I said,
You just can't.
I just educate some people.
It's flabbergasting, but and he had his own lawsuit for that reason. He also had a lawsuit, and they said that the NFL didn't do its due process and really didn't investigate because he's like, they talked to me. He's like, they talked to me one time. That's what Coach Chung said, and never came back. So he's like, really? And then they dropped everything. Did they really actually pursue my complaint? Crazy. He didn't name the team that Coach Chung didn't name the team that said that, obviously for legal reasons. But it's like, no offense, because I love you, ladies, but it had to be a white guy.
It had to.
Sorry. Because who else?
You're not offending me at all.
No, you're not.
I'm so sorry.
But
you're right. What's up?
I'm like, who else is gonna say you're not a minority?
What is Nate asking us? Why would the Giants hire someone before the interview?
Exactly. Why would you hire someone before his interview? Come on, man.
So now you have a lot of minority coaches coming out, not just black coaches, but other minority coaches going, yeah, we're not given a fair shot. I was just sharing, I don't know if it's true, but I was just sharing in the group that a coach from San Francisco was fired because they offered him a 60% pay cut and he didn't take it. So he's no longer with him. And again, it's all alleged, right?
Yeah,
'Cause,
absolutely.
but it's like, but I'm saying so it always takes one coach, right? Or one person to kind of start shaking things up. But
absolutely.
you know, I don't know what's going to happen outside of that, but the only way that you make change is if you force people to be transparent, right?
Absolutely.
So the solution really is transparency. So whenever in the corporate world, when this happens, what ends up happening is everybody's okay, well, let's look at everybody, right? All your employees, and then you start breaking it down by demographics, by levels, right? Who's in your entry level, and as you go up to the top, what percentages are, white, Black, Latino, and women, men, right? That's when you start breaking down the ratio. And so basically that's what's happening. Like I feel like it's going to force, like, you have to be more transparent if more and more minority coaches keep coming out, which it looks like they are. And they're throwing their support behind Brian Flores.
And
so
I feel bad for him, what happened in his Denver Broncos interview. I mean,
that's right, because he was talking about it.
LA was an hour late. He came in hungover. They had already kind of like went out the night before. They came in disheveled, hungover. They were an hour late. They weren't on time. They didn't give him like the proper like treatment that they would a normal coach that they were interviewing. And then, I mean, there's also the elephant in the room of this 19-year-old rule called the Rooney Rule. That's supposed to be for positive, but now looks like it's more for negative.
It's a game. So
they're
that they're interviewing, but they already got their hire.
They already do. Yeah, and there's 3 more coaching positions available right now in the NFL, and we'll see what these teams decide to do with their hires.
Leftwich pulled out.
Leftwich has pulled out. Bowles, it sounds like he might be pulling out because of the fact that they feel like they're getting these interviews because of a rule that's not being used properly, in my opinion.
No, it's not. So it's like the same argument. So it's the same argument with like affirmative action. So these policies were put in place to actually make systemic change. But what ends up happening, the good old boy clubs that don't want systemic change use these policies and make them look bad, purposely sink them and purposely make them look bad because they don't want that change to happen.
No.
It's literally, they can trace it back to people either hiring unqualified people on purpose. So like see minorities are dumb or women are dumb. You look at them, they don't know how to do their job, but it's because they didn't hire a qualified candidate, even though a qualified candidate would have been just fine.
Absolutely.
Or they're like, oh, it's a diversity hire, right? And then they'll tell the people that they're trying to placate, well, I have to give this person their job over you.
Right.
And so it diverts the issue, which is if you'd actually be given equity when you're actually looking at candidate across the board, regardless of their background, we wouldn't have to come up with these rules to begin with.
Right.
So that's the issue. And so, so if you actually went out there and did your due diligence and it's like, hey, by the way, there's this plethora of candidates. They've proven with countless experiments, sending a Black resume and a white resume, right? Black sounding names, whatever that is. But you know what I mean, right? They've done the experiments where they've sent a resume with the same qualifications. All they did was change the name, exact same qualifications, and get who got the acceptance, right? The one that sounds Caucasian. Yeah. And so that's what I'm trying to say. It's just they're playing the system because there's these good old boy groups that don't want to let go or let change happen because everyone actually knows that minorities are treated like inferior in this country, and so they think if we take over that we're gonna do the same thing. And that's really what it is, like subconsciously
did to Colin Kaepernick. I mean,
he's
not even allowed to be a quarterback anymore.
Right.
Four of these guys that have gotten coaching jobs haven't even been coaches.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why women are still fighting for equal wages.
I mean, it's
literally.
How do you feel? Tell us.
Okay. Come on, teacher, Kat.
No, I'm just listening to all this. I'm just shaking my head. Like, because, I mean, I work in a district. Like, I don't know if people realize, like, but Fairfax County, like, we are so, like, the focus is representation, finding teachers of so many different cultures. Like, in my classroom, I have, like, 16 of my 23 students speak more than 2 or 3 languages. So hearing this, it's just so frustrating that we're still dealing with these issues. This shouldn't be the case. It's just so frustrating. But I'm glad that we're finally like people are seeing it. There's still a lot of people that still need to see it, but it's just so frustrating to me listening to all of this. So.
Absolutely. Sydney says, how do we get more black head coaches? What's something you guys would like done to move in that direction?
One of the things that I said earlier, which is with the scholarship, is that you actually have to equip people with the right tools, right? To actually get into executive positions, right? Not just coaching, because they're not the ones that, remember, it's the executives and the owners and the personnel. They're the ones who hire the coaches.
Right.
So you have to actually change the front offices of all 32 teams. You actually have to push into all the actual NFL organization from top to bottom, right? And so so I've always believed that the pen is mightier than the sword, and it really is. If you educate people with the right tools, that doesn't mean they need a Harvard education. You literally need to know how to play the game. So this is how it works in these systems. This is what they're going to do, blah, 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 blah. You have to train them to be leaders so that they could go in there and go, if I was, you have to start asking questions. Why wasn't I hired? I have the same qualifications, right? You have to look, what are the requirements? What are the qualifications? I have all these qualifications for the requirements you put out there. So why was this person hired over myself? And so you have to start asking questions. So one positive thing about 2022 is that now it's more like we can see it, right? More than before, right? Because it's out there, because unfortunately you have to have the people like Brian Flores go, hey, has to rock the boat. And yeah, hopefully he's not turned into a martyr, because that's another thing that often happens, like Sean said earlier. But the thing is, you have to force transparency, hiring practices, exactly what I said. Like, major companies have to share like things like that now too, because of that reason, right? Like, you actually have to make the transparency actually available. Like, all the 32 teams, what are your personnel? Who's in these executive positions? What percentage of it are black? What percentage of are white? What percentage are women, people of color, right? And you have to actually force them to share this information. And then it's like, you have to actually push them to change. But I honestly, and so that's basically what happens. This happens in all industries, and not just the NFL, right? We know this.
But the NFL is the worst out of the major sports. So,
and that's the way you have to do it. You have to force yourself into the room where decisions are being made. We've said that before. You have to be in the rooms where decisions are being made. If you are not in those rooms, then you're not there. You're not at the table. So sometimes you have to force yourself into that table regardless. Like, you have to be the one that's in there making those decisions, because if you're not there, someone is making it for you.
A lot of people are saying players should have a say in who gets.
They should have a say, right? Like, they really should have.
70% of the players in the NFL are black.
Of course.
I mean, so if the majority rules, and they get their say, then that change stirs up.
I don't think it's that easy. You need situations like Washington where you get a team of presidents in the front office.
Well,
no, of course it's not easy, but if we don't do something, then it's worse.
No, it's definitely not easy. But if you want to do like a plane, why not the same people that played college played college or played that are white? Why not look at the same situation where the same that are black or Spanish, if they're interviewing for a job, and when you look at the other person that's a candidate, what is the difference between this other person?
That's exactly what I'm saying. So what's the difference?
Are they qualified? Do they have you seen them work? Oh yes, I've watched. You got players like you have multiple players, but you have players that are out there that you're like, man, why don't they go coach? Why don't they go coach? Why don't they go coach? There's plenty of people, but it's about getting the front office, like Delilah, to even look at you, to acknowledge that, hey, I gave 15 years to the NFL.
Exactly.
I can do it too. You are hiring people that played the game like I played the game. Nobody's doing anything extracurricular to win over me. So tell me, what is your logic? Let's just look at me like I'm a human being, like you look at them.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's so no, it's not easy.
And the NBA is a good place to look. There's 14 head black coaches. There's a lot of diversity within the organizations. Like Magic Johnson's part owner, Michael Jordan's part owner.
Right.
And there's a lot of diversity in the NBA. So maybe you take like a Magic Johnson and say, how can you help influence this change that has been going on in the NBA to the NFL?
It's going to take it. I mean, it's going to take people realizing that if you just look at the people that like they're human beings when they come in for an interview, let's just not see color. Let's just not see anything about them that does not have anything to do with the game. If it's a game, if that person is well and equipped to teach and to get your team to a championship, all that matters.
Why not do the interview like The Voice? You don't see? The chairs are serious. Like, why not have the interview be like that? You don't even have the person's name.
I love your idea. That's innovative. That's innovative.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
That's an easy fix.
Just like the Voice. I love that.
Yeah, now this is the hard part because in the NFL, you're not going to be able to get an owner position unless the good old boys let you in.
Like I said,
Situation with the NBA, but even if you look at the NBA, who are the players, the black players that were able to get in? The best of the best black players are the ones that was able to afford ownership or to be able to have a name to be able to get into that position.
No, it's true.
Johnson and Michael Jordan.
Right.
Of course, they would have pieces inside of something because they know somebody.
And
it's hard to get into that know somebody in the NFL.
For sure. No, and it's like you do need a heavy bag, so it means that you need a group of black investors, and then like you said, one heavy hitter, like a Magic Johnson of the NFL, right? Michael Jordan NFL. You need a heavy hitter. You need to actually. Because most ownership is usually now the way it works is multiple owners. It's rare where you see one family now. There's just a few left. Now, Denver was like, one of few left. Eventually, I already know McCaskey eventually will sell once Virginia dies off. Sorry. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I just, there's not many teams that are owned by one family anymore. And it does take back money. But,
I mean, what happens if a group of former NFL stars came together to own a team, like an Emmitt Smith or Barry Sanders or
Sanders?
I said a good name for it.
That's what I'm saying, right? You do
Megatron.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So you do need like black black people with money, right? That have deep pockets to come together and be like, okay, let's buy this team. And then we need someone to be the front man that everybody remembers and knows to be the face, right? And it's just like you got to play the game. The way you play the game is you have to get those investors, right? And so you got to get that money, right? And so you gotta make it work, right? You gotta force it to, And so there's no easy solution.
No,
but the step in the right direction is to knock down the doors and be in those executive positions and start owning teams, or at least part owner of a team, right?
You're right, because it's going to take white players to step up and say, "Hey, they are just as people as us." You're right.
Exactly.
Peyton Manning,
that's exactly what it is.
They played football all of their lives with black players. They are best friends.
Right.
They know that they deserve a chance just as much. Peyton Manning wouldn't be Peyton Manning without the greats that played with Peyton Manning.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
These players are made by other players.
Right.
I understand that. I mean, just be treated as a normal human being. Yeah. It's starting to happen, but I think there's an hesitation. Yeah, but I think with this Brian Flores situation, I think it just brings it out. It shows you that the cards are already stacked against you. You're excited about an interview that was already given to somebody else.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
You're preparing. You're working hard. Nobody knows what Brian Flores was studying and working on to get ready for this interview and to find out that he's not even in the running because somebody else got the job already.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing it as a formality to sustain a rule that's not working.
To waste my time. That's exactly what they were doing. To waste the time. We can talk about that all
I know. Especially 4 educated women in one show.
Yeah, definitely.
It's 4 strong personalities.
Woo! God, I'm already stirred up. But we got to talk about one more thing
No.